Never mind, we have to wait to be introduced.
We'll get right back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
At 10:30 exactly. Okay. I'll drink
Yeah.
my water. Did you break your foot dancing too hard? Puts a crimp in your summer contra plans.
Good morning, everyone. While the ranks are being filled in until about 11 o'clock, I welcome you to the Monadnock Summer Lyceum. My name is Franz Feige. I'm here to guide you through this program this morning. We're so glad you can be here on this glorious New Hampshire, New England morning. To begin our program, please join me in welcoming today's musicians, Veer and Abhiraj.
And please do catch the sound and sing along as we warm up with our Guru mantra, Waheguru. Great is the ecstasy of that epiphany. Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. Waheguru, Waheguru. The Geo is like very close to you, sweet, dear friend. Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. Waheguru, Waheguru. 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 This next short piece we'll share is 4 lines from a longer Shabad, and those are our sacred songs from our tradition. But essentially it means, if you want to play the game of love, come to me with your head in your hand. Because if we want to play love, we can't be up here, right? We've got to be here. So place your head in your hand and bring it forward and lead from your heart. Joto Prem. Joto Prem. Kalana ka chao. Joto Prem. Kalana ka chao. Sirindara tali gali meri hao. Sirindara tali gali meri hao. Joto prema kelana ka chao. Joto prem kalana ka chao. Joto prem kalana ka chao. Itamara ka Sirdija at the Marika Jarija Sirdija Kananakija Kananakija Sirdija Kananakija. Joto prem kalana ka chao. Joto prem kalana ka chao. Siddhara tali gali meri hao. Sirindara tali gali meri hao. Joto prema kalana ka chao. Joto prema kalana ka chao. Mere Govinda, 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 mere Govinda. Joto pre Galina ga Chao Itamarika Perendarija Siridija Itamarika Perendarija Siridija Gone in the Gija, gone in the Gija, Siddhija, gone in the Gija, Joto pre, Galina Chao, Joto pre. Sitting down at the gali, Mary Hao. Sitting down at the gali, Mary Hao. Jodo prema, galina ka, jao. Joto prema galina ka jao. So while he tunes to the G, this next piece includes a short Bij mantra. Bij sounds are sounds that we plant in our mind and they grow. Much like commercials from your childhood, right? So the Bij of this particular song is Sata Nama Rama Dasa Sa Se Sohang. And it's attributed to my favorite Hindu deity, Ganesha, and it removes obstacles. So when you are in your life feeling an obstacle and you need liberation, you chant these sounds. So, and then I've added this English song around it to try to sort of give it context. This is my liberation song. This is my liberation song. Sata Nama Rama Dasa Sa Se Soham. This is my liberation song. This is my liberation song. Sata Nama Rama Dasa Sa Se Soham. If you wanna be free, open your eyes, open your heart, open your hands, open your mind and lift your voice and sing with me. Raise your arms to the sky, even if you don't know why. Kiss the breath and greet the stars, for they made you who you are. If you wanna be free, come with me. Take my hand, we'll cross the sea to come with me. Love a stranger as though they're a friend. Take your enemy by the hand. We can create the world we seek. Just chant the name and let it be. This is my liberation song. This is my liberation song. Satanama Ramadasa Sa Se Soham. 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 If you wanna be free, you've gotta see the world as it is, not as you'd have it be. There is no good, there is no bad, only straight ahead. So kiss your lover on the lips, hold a child with your fingertips, open your arms to the wind, and run downhill and begin again. Satanama Ramadasa Sa Se Soham. Satanama Ramadasa Sa Se Soham. If you wanna be free, open your eyes, open your heart, open your hands, open your mind and lift your voice and sing with me. Raise your arms to the sky, even if you don't know why. Kiss the breath and greet the stars, for they made you who you are. If you wanna be free, come with me. Take my hand, we'll cross the sea to a world beyond our dreams. Come with me. Love a stranger as though they're a friend. Kiss your enemy by the hand. Take your enemy. Just chant the name and let it be. Satanama Ramadasa Sa Se Soham. Satanama Ramadasa Sa Se Soham. This is my liberation song. This is my liberation song. Satanama Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham. If you wanna be free, you've gotta see the world as it is, not as you'd have it be. There is no good, there is no bad, just straight ahead. So kiss your lover on the lips, hold a child with your fingertips, run downhill and begin again. Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham. This is my liberation song. This is my liberation song. Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham Sadanama Ramadasa Sase Soham. May all beings everywhere be happy and free.
thanking Abiraj and Gvir for their beautiful heavenly music. First, before I welcome the speakers and the moderator, I would like to thank the many individual donors in the audience here and beyond for your generous support. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You make this season free and open to all. We are also deeply grateful for the 2026 season sponsor, Microspec, for its general support of the Monadnock Summer Lyceum. Okay. Hello? For the, let me repeat. We are grateful for the 2026 Summer Lyceum sponsors for the whole season, Microspec, for the generous support. We are also extending our sincere thank you to the speaker sponsor, the Putnam Foundation, who makes this morning's program possible. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce the speaker, to welcome them, and after that, the moderator. Our speakers, Dr. Shabazz and Tom Weiner, will speak on, I have to check, because it's different from up there. Listen to the abolitionists. But first, let me turn the mic over to our moderator, the executive director of our town's Center for History and Culture, Monadnock Center for History and Culture. Her name is Michelle Stahl. You are very own Peterborough moderator. Please feel free to use those fans, and there's also water in the back. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Michelle Stahl, your moderator for today. It is my very great pleasure to welcome to the Monadnock Summer Lyceum our guest speakers, Tom Weiner and Dr. Amilcar Shabazz. For many years, the Monadnock Summer Lyceum has brought outstanding world-class speakers to the Monadnock region to serve as catalysts to inform and inspire an active citizenry on local, national, and global issues. Both today's talks and past presentations are available as podcasts and videos at our website, monadnocklyceum.org. Following the presentation, our speakers will answer questions from the audience. Folks present here in the church may write questions on the yellow cards in the pews, and an usher will come around to collect them. For those of you watching virtually, please submit your questions by using the live chat section on YouTube. The Monadnock Summer Lyceum is supported entirely through donations and contributions from our audience and community members. We deeply appreciate your donations, which may be placed in the glass bowls in the church and in the parish hall. Those listening at home may make contributions at the website or by mail. Thank you for your generous support. We encourage your feedback on today's program using the green card in your pews and to join our mailing list or email list. Please drop your green card in one of the glass bowls. For those online, use the website to offer suggestions and to join the list. After the program, we invite you to attend an informal reception in the parish hall through the door to my right. It is so appropriate that we are here today in this sanctuary, where nearly 200 years ago, the Lyceum debated abolition in the 1840s. Our speakers today are Tom Weiner and Dr. Amilcar Shabazz, the authors of In Defiance, 20 Abolitionists You Were Never Taught in School. Writer and retired educator Tom Weiner is the author of Called to Serve, Stories of Men and Women Confronted by the Vietnam War, and Photographed Letters on Wings, How Microfilm V-Mail Helped Win World War II. A graduate of Trinity College in Hartford, Weiner taught at the Smith College Campus School for 40 years and spent 34 years teaching middle and high school students in summer school. While participating in an intergroup dialogue project, Weiner met Dr. Shabazz and later asked him to work together on the book that became In Defiance. Dr. Shabazz is a professor in and a former chairman of the W.E.B. Du Bois Department of Afro-American Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. He teaches African-American history with an emphasis on the political economy of social and cultural movements, education, and public history. His book, Advancing Democracy, African Americans in the Struggle for Access and Equity in Higher Education in Texas, received numerous honors, including being ranked a top 10 nonfiction book by Essence magazine. His other books include 2 co-edited volumes, Women and Others, Perspectives on Race, Gender, and Empire, and the 40 Acres Documents. It is my honor to welcome them to Peterborough and to the Monadnock Summer Lyceum. If you'd like to come up.
Good morning. I want to begin by expressing deep appreciation to Franz and the Lyceum Committee for inviting us and for all the hospitality that he and Diana have offered us in these last 24 hours. It's been a very special visit already. I want to also let you know that this may well be our last scheduled appearance together for this book after 15 months of events. And if it turns out to be the final presentation, what an honor and privilege to be having it happen here. The history itself speaks for itself of this place and this Lyceum. I want to also take this opportunity, because it might not happen again, to express appreciation for Dr. Shabazz, for his commitment to this work, for the shared experience of writing the book and of sharing it with over 35 audiences in libraries, bookstores, colleges, churches, universities, and high schools, and several online. His camaraderie and unsparing vision have been gifts to me. Someone else richly deserves credit for our being here with you this morning. His name is Bryan Stevenson, and I'm hoping some of you know who that is. He's the author of the book Just Mercy, which was turned into the film Just Mercy, about his efforts to get black men off death row. And he's also the creator of the Equal Justice Initiative, the Lynching Museum, and the museums down in Montgomery. I'll get to his inspiration for the title, but I first want to share an excerpt from his interview this past Sunday with the New York Times' Ezra Klein. Coincidentally, a woman in my bi-weekly Zoom support group entitled Living Fully, Aging Gracefully, Befriending Death, asked the same question that Mr. Stevenson addressed in the interview. Jane asked, how could enslavers continue to believe they were being true to their Christianity and morality? Here's Stevenson's response. People who enslaved other people thought of themselves as moral and decent and Christian, and you have to ask, how do you think of yourself as moral, decent, and Christian when you're pulling away a screaming woman from her children, knowing that mother will never see those children again because you're treating her as property? How do you do that? And then you beat her for crying. He continues, you have to understand that it takes what he calls a false narrative in order for those people to feel moral and decent and Christian. There had to be a false narrative legitimating, sustaining, animating what they were saying. And so we created a false narrative in this country. He goes on and says, it actually began when Europeans arrived and they had to deal with indigenous peoples, which is part of the reason why I think we need to talk about that history. When we created our Constitution, when we declared independence and advanced these ideas of equality and freedom and justice, we denied Native people protection. We said, oh no, those Native people, they're different. And we created this false narrative of racial difference that we used to justify forcing people off their lands, famine, war, and disease. The same narrative is what was used to justify 246 years of slavery, that black people are not as good as white people, that black people are less human, less evolved, less capable. And that's why Stevenson says he believes the great evil of slavery wasn't the bondage, wasn't the forced labor, wasn't the violence. I think the true evil of American slavery was the narrative we created to justify enslavement. And he says, when I give talks, I often argue that the North won the Civil War, but the South won the narrative war. Those ideas of racial difference, racial hierarchy, they continued, and to this day. So then, when Southern states start codifying racial segregation, creating Jim Crow, it didn't seem as strange as you would imagine it should be to have laws banning black people and white people from sitting in the same part of a bus, or playing checkers together, or living next to one another. This absurd, crazy world where black kids couldn't play with white kids and black people couldn't say anything to a white person, that is all rooted in this false narrative. He goes on and ends like this. I feel like it's unhealthy not to acknowledge the tensions, the contradictions, the failures of the founding fathers and the failures of our larger society. And this is me. Lest we think that America has a monopoly on the false narrative, I am showing you a hat with the Sami flag. The Sami are the indigenous people of Northern Europe, whom are incorrectly called Laplanders, perhaps the name you would have heard them referred to as, just the way Roma people are called gypsies. And I am actually in the process of watching an independent Les PBS program about the historic mistreatment of black people in Canada. In virtually every instance of enslavement and colonialism, the false narrative Stevenson highlights has held and tragically still holds today, in churches, in schools, in government, in healthcare, in jobs. From the beginning, I have seen our book as a counter to the false narrative that not only persists, but has gained strength with the rise of authoritarianism and the use of racism by this government. Ours is a truthful narrative. And now to how Mr. Stevenson contributed to the book. In Susan Neiman's book, Learning from the Germans, Race and the Memory of Evil, in which she charts how East and West Germany paid reparations and made good for the awful, horrendous Holocaust, and then switches it up and spends the last part of the book on Alabama, Louisiana, etc., which has not participated in any form of reparative justice. She quotes Bryan Stevenson, and our title was born. And this is what Bryan said. You should be proud of those Southerners in Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama who argued in the 1850s that slavery was wrong. There were white Southerners in the 1920s who tried to stop lynchings, and you don't know their names. The fact that we don't know their names says everything we need to know. And then he has this to say. Neiman continues this prescription that he's outlined, and she recommends if those names were commemorated, the country could turn from shame to pride, and then quotes Stevenson saying, we can actually claim a heritage rooted in courage and defiance of what is easy and preferring what is right. in defiance of what is easy and preferring what is right. We can make that the norm we want to celebrate as our Southern history, and I'd say American history and heritage and culture. Listen to the abolitionists. That's what this book is telling us to do. So I want to highlight two of my favorites, and I have 20 favorites, as you would imagine, because I spent a lot of time with these people. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you one more inspiration for me, and that is a woman whose library I visited in Louisiana, Kathy Hambrick. The River Road African-American Museum in Donaldson, Louisiana. Kathy is the museum's founder and curator, and been trying for the past 25 years to inform people about the history of African-American contributors to American culture who have been forgotten. When she visited plantations along the Mississippi River, and this is the early 90s, she discovered that enslaved people were referred to as servants, the false narrative in full sway. She told me that one night she had created a vision of her ancestors floating on a barge on the Mississippi River, calling out to her, "Don't let them forget us." She was both appalled at the plantation tours, and she took every one, and inspired by her vision, and subsequently founded the museum to honor those who came before, to tell the truth. She told me of the African proverb that had inspired her. Until the lion tells the tale, tales of the hunt will glorify the hunter. So I'd like to tell you a couple of the lion tales now. The first one is about Benjamin Lay. Benjamin Lay, from Philadelphia, was a Quaker, and he was 4 foot 10 inches tall and a giant among men. We titled the chapter, "A Small Man with an Outsized Passion for Justice." And if the slide comes up, you'll see he lived in a cave for the latter part of his life. He renounced all luxuries. He became a vegan before it was even known. And here's what he did in 1738, which to me was the beginning of guerrilla theater. 1738. The incident took place in Burlington, New Jersey. Lay entered the Philadelphia Quarterly Yearly Meeting dressed as a soldier, 1738. Carrying a sword and a Bible concealed beneath his overcoat, he delivered a long and impassioned speech describing the horrors of enslavement. And again, I don't know how they got this transcribed because there were no recording devices, but this was a direct quote from a primary source. "Oh, all you Negro masters who are contentedly holding your fellow creatures in a state of slavery during life, well knowing the cruel sufferings those innocent captives undergo, especially you who profess to do unto all men as you would they should do unto you, you might as well throw off the plain coat as I do." Just as he arrived at the climax, he took off his coat and held the Bible in one hand and pierced it with a sword. Inside the Bible, he had placed a rubber bag filled with bright red pokeberry juice. The juice splattered those sitting close by, and he continued to speak. "It would be as justifiable in the sight of the Almighty, who beholds and respects all nations and colors of men with an equal regard, if you should thrust a sword through their hearts as I do through this." His intention that the liquid would symbolize the blood on the hands of his fellow Quakers for not opposing enslavement was made with dramatic flair. This man was someone to listen to. And we end the chapter with these words about him. Nowadays, Benjamin Lay still remains an obscure figure, but he should be remembered as one of the few Americans of his generation that recognized and refused to compromise with the evil that lay at the heart of their society. Benjamin made his own life into a parable. He knew that people would tell stories of his apparently crazy things that he did, and he knew that through this, the moral lesson he was teaching would spread. And while he preached the love for all mankind, he recognized that there was no contradiction between that and refusing to compromise with those who drew their wealth from human suffering. He was, in many ways, a man ahead of his time, but in many other ways, he was exactly the man his time needed, and the world today would be a worse place if he had not been in it. For that, we should be grateful. And I say, listen to the abolitionists, and let's find our ways to follow in the footsteps of Benjamin Lay. The other person I want to talk about is a woman, Sarah Parker Ramond. Sarah Parker Ramond was 16 when this happened. She found her own powerful voice early on, with her family providing the requisite emotional and financial support for her to become an anti-slavery lecturer. 16, black woman. She delivered her first anti-slavery lecture in Groton, Massachusetts, in July of 1842, 1 month after her 16th birthday. So listen to the young people who are here to speak on behalf of us as well. This woman came to my attention because in 2018, a young black blogger named Eric Martin asked, "Do the voices of teenagers really matter?" He was responding to hostile reactions of some local adults to the movement created by his fellow students in Parkland, Florida, after the mass shooting at the local high school. He followed his question by pointing to the life story of Sarah Ramond. Who was she? And this is one more part of what she did that was so extraordinary. Well launched, she was determined to take every opportunity to speak out and put her words into action. Her next big moment of defiance came in May of 1853. She had purchased tickets by mail for a performance at the Howard Athenaeum, one of the most popular opera venues in Boston, for Donizetti's Don Pasquale. She had planned to bring 2 friends, one of whom was William C. Nell, journalist, publisher, author, and civil servant who worked to integrate Boston schools. Upon their arrival, they were shown to segregated seats, not the ones for which they had tickets. Sarah refused to accept this. As a result, she was escorted out of the theater, and because of her defiance, was pushed down a flight of stairs. Undaunted, she followed her mother's teaching to fight for equality through legal means and sued the theater for damages. She won and received $500, which is equivalent to $20,000 today. The theater management was obliged to acknowledge they had wronged Sarah. Most importantly, it was forced to integrate its seating. Judge Thomas Russell chose to accept Sarah's testimony that she had planned to test the segregation policy. She asserted she simply wanted to occupy the seat she paid for. This legal victory brought her considerable fame. So I'd like to finish my part by pointing out something that you may or may not know is happening here in New Hampshire. It means listening to the abolitionists means working as folks have been doing to stop your legislature from passing laws like the latest version of the Trump administration's effort to trumpet the false narrative, as well as stifle and prohibit teaching books like ours. It's currently labeled in New Hampshire the Prohibition on Teaching Discrimination, and you can write your state senators to stop the bill. And now I'm going to reintroduce my partner, Dr. Shabazz, who's going to take us up to date, bring us into the present with listening to the abolitionists.
Well, the first thing I want to do is to thank this guy. It's been a pleasure working with him on this project over the past few years. It's been a duty, and it's been a privilege. And so and I appreciate all the work we've done in we call it the little Underground Railroad tour, all the places we've been, Toadstool Bookstore, and in Keene and here in Petersboro, and all the places we've been. It's been quite a joy. I want to add to the thanks that Tom gave to all of the organizers. And you know what? If you want to put the little loop of the slides, that's good. Just we can let it loop on. Just so those folks are joining us here in the room, the abolitionists that we wrote about, and that we're thanking and thinking of them as we go. Our musical opening, the good folks there are going to be a little part. I'm going to invoke a little bit of the mantra as part of what I have to say. And with no further ado, let me, I guess, get right and get started. This one's going to, there we go. When I was an undergraduate at the University of Texas at Austin, the whole struggle was going against the apartheid regime, the white supremacist, settler colonial, whatever, regime in South Africa. You know, the people that are now considered the most oppressed people on planet Earth, the white South Africans. They brought over a group of them. They're setting them up in Alabama on land and welcomed and American citizenship, streamlined straight through, because they are the most oppressed people. And their kinfolk, their white kinfolk back in South Africa, I don't know, they're selling their farm, and they still got this, they still got that. I don't know about that oppression business. Their own family. But they're in with Elon, and they're in with all these people, and they're now considered the most oppressed people. And the only people deserving of a straight pathway coming in as immigrants, because what? We're doing like Argentina. We're going to whiten America. We want white people coming to this country. White people, blonde, those blue eyes and green eyes, and that Nordic, that whatever stock, I don't know. Dutch. The whitest of white, because we want to whiten this country to get it back to where it was supposed to be. All right, but when I was there working on bringing down the apartheid regime in South Africa, I went one time to the state, it was my first time going to the state capitol to speak before a governmental committee. It was the state joint committee of the state legislature of Texas on higher education. And we had gotten a little time under public comment or whatever to come in and speak, and we were bringing all our data about the U.S. corporations that are doing business in South Africa, how in order to do business there, they have to comply with the law and have separate bathrooms, and anybody black that works for those companies that would go over there, in order to get into South Africa, their passport, everything, they would have to be labeled for the time they come into the country an honorary white person. Black people are not allowed. Black Americans, you can't come into the country as a black person, as who you are. You can't show up like that. They have to declare you an honorary white person for you to get a visa to come into the country. You know, we were laying all this out and then calling on the state legislature to pass a law directing the Board of Trustees of the University of Texas to take the money out of that's invested from the Permanent University Fund, this big billion-dollar fund at the time, 1980, 81, when I'm an undergrad, to take it out of those companies doing business in South Africa. That was our ask. And I showed up there in a dashiki from my Nigerian roommate that I was doing this work with, Ezekiel and Agbon. We were both economics majors. I was undergrad, he was grad. And I showed up there wearing one of his dashikis. I didn't even own one, but I wanted to go, what we say, Afrocentric. And the state representative who was on that committee for higher ed from my home city in Texas, Beaumont, Texas, his name was Representative Al Price. And when I finished testifying and had left the room, and he got down from his area as a representative, came outside and grabbed me and said, "Young man, I know your mother. I know your family. And I want to tell you this." He was being a mentor. He was giving me, telling me, but strongly, sternly, "Don't you ever come before a governmental body like this without wearing a suit and tie. And in general, when you go before white folks and you're trying to, be impressive and do things, you must wear a suit and tie. Church, state, it doesn't matter. Come in a suit and I don't want to ever see you like this again." So it kind of stuck with me. And no, but for some reason, the Spirit said, let's at least start out like this. Okay. We'll see how it goes. I am wearing my Pokemon Go shoes. The biggest festival of Pokemon Go is going around in the world today. So I'm spending time away from Pokemon Go to be with you all here in this great Lyceum. All right, so here's the frame. Tom has already talked about quoting Brian Stevenson, the idea of false narratives. I love these big words. My people would just call it a lie. Lies. They lying on us. That's why I like this Lyceum. We're here in a Lyceum to see the lies, to expose them, and to look for what? The truth. So my talk is framed around three things leading toward the freedom, the liberation songs, what they sing about. And that is God, love, and truth. So let's get into it. But we're going to first start with a little secular start because of the times we're living in, this being the year of the, what do you call it, semi-sesquicentennial? 250. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for a people to declare the political bands which connect them to another, to break the bands which connect them to another, and to assume among the powers of the earth that separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitles them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all humans are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that they must provide to secure these rights. Governments are instituted among humans, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Abolition. Abolish it. And to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes. And accordingly, all human experience has shown that humankind, are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of the colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. And then we go into the history of the king. No kings. We go into the history of the king and the grievances and the wrongs. And of course, there's that one that was originally in there that got cut, that said slavery and the slave trade is wrong. It was committed against a people who had done nothing to offend the King of England, who had done nothing to offend the king's subjects, the colonists, had done nothing to offend white people, and yet we've been taking them, kidnapping them, raping them from their home country, enslaving them, and this condition had been forced on the colonists. The colonists had been made involved in it. We got to edit that, Tom. Take that out. I want to say, Wahe Guru. Tom Jefferson, in writing this declaration, 250 years ago. And all of those involved with it in that passage, I want to say, they were speaking from the word, these words, the eloquence, the truth of it is coming from a divine teacher inside Old Tom. Yes. Yes. There's no contradiction for me to say that, even with the passage that got edited. But certainly the passage that got edited was true too. Was from a divine teacher inside. Inside. But that doesn't negate that same human we call Tom was a liar. He carried lies. He told lies. He engaged in the false narratives. That's human. What do we say? Somebody did something, but we're trying to keep the peace in the house, and so they ask how we feel. We say, all right, even though we're mad, we got it. That's telling, like what we say, it's telling a white lie, right? We tell little white lies. Isn't that something? The black lies are the bad ones, right? The white lies, that's okay. That's human. It's all false narratives. We're just telling a story. That's not quite true. Because for whatever reasons. And so Thomas Jefferson and the people of that time, they told a lot of stories that weren't true. When it gets down to the Constitution, right? Oh, well, before I leave the Declaration, what do they say toward the end of the grievances? Here's the one that Tom was calling out through Brian Stevenson as well, right? When they got through all the different terrible things the king has done, talked about the merciless Indian savages, right? Now, again, that's one of those kind of complex narratives because there was a lot of mercilessness that had been going on between the white settlers coming over and the Indians, the indigenous people that were here. There had been a lot of lack of mercy shown between both those groups, right? It's like Gaza and the Palestinians and the Israelis, right? There's a lot of, somebody was telling me, what were we talking about? Things that aren't book-endable. They got discrete little, these are things that just keep going. That's a long-standing one. There have been some merciless showing of no mercy on October 7th. There's a lot of merciless behavior. There's been a lot of merciless behavior before that from the Israeli side against the Palestinians. There's been a lot of mercilessness going on since October 7th. Killing children, killing people. Had nothing to do with the attack. All to say we're crushing Hamas and this and that. So we got a lot of lack of mercy going on all around. And then the U.S. got to get into it, right? And we got to go drop bombs too and be merciless, right? To perform what? To perform our moral righteousness, defending the little democracy in Western Asia where there's no democracy without us going there and bombing the enemies of it. So we got all this lack of mercy. And it's a complex history to it, but ultimately it's also part of propagating lies. And that's what we're here to listen to the abolitionists and fight, because in the time of the book that we look at and in Defiance, we are talking about people who had a strong power of discernment. And that's what we need. We must have discernment to see the false narratives, the falsity of the false narratives, and to work for the truth. And so I leave with this. You have some folks here led by a guy named Mike Belcher, a Republican of Wakefield, who's been pushing this bill called the Charlie Act. Tom referred to it, but he didn't give it its full name. Its name is the Charlie Act, for Charlie Kirk. for Charlie Kirk. They call it the Charlie Act. It's in the House, it's House Bill, I think 1792, known as the Charlie Act for Charlie Kirk, prohibits public schools from teaching critical race theory, LGBTQ plus ideologies, identity-based ideologies, and Marxist analyses. It would also ban pedagogical praxis derived from Hegelian and Marxist dialectical analysis. Now, I don't mind the Hegelian part. You can ban, no, I wouldn't want you to even ban old Hegel. But you know, Hegel, from a podium like this in a place in Germany called Jena, in 1831, the same time Nat Turner rose up with the Nat Turner Rebellion, he preached from the podium that the African is no part of the world historical spirit. He's no part of history. The African, they're outside of history, of human history. Hegel, look him up. So I don't mind. His dialectic was an idealist dialectic. Marx turned his dialectic right side up, is the way we talk about it. He turned it right side up with the concept of historical materialism, founded using Hegel's dialectic, but not in idealistic terms, but grounded in materialism, looking at the mode of production, the forces of production, how we organize to provide for ourselves, and the class dimensions, the stratifications, the hierarchies that are created within that mode of production to control the distribution of the resources from production. So anyway, whether you want any of that, I think we ought to just let it all be free. The Hegelian side, that's very negative to Africans, the Marxist side, all of it. What are we policing? We say we want a pro-American, this Belcher. Right next door, I live to a place called Belchertown. I don't know if they're connected. But the Belchertown people in the other party, they're saying that you've got to have a real pro-American. And even though it got struck down in the courts as vague, they brought the bill back up, and they've been tweaking. And just in May, it was voted down again, but I don't think they've given up. So like Tom said, we beg you, we plead, the abolitionists are pleading to please stay vigilant, because here I leave with this. There was a scripture. Oh yes, I'll even go into a little scripture in the last minute I have. The scripture I want us to look at is from Acts 16. Paul and Silas in prison. Once when we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a female slave who had a spirit, a divine teacher in her, a spirit by which she predicted the future. She earned a great deal of money for her owners by fortune telling. She followed Paul and the rest of us, shouting, "These men are servants of the Most High God, who are telling you the way to be saved." She kept this up for many days. Finally, Paul became so annoyed that he turned around and said to the spirit, "I command in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you, come out of her." At that moment, the spirit left her. When her owners realized that their hope of making money was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to face the authorities. They brought them before the magistrates and said, "These men are Jews, and they are throwing our city into an uproar by advocating customs unlawful for us Romans to accept or practice." The crowd joined in with attacks against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. After they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in stocks. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, singing liberation songs. Suddenly, there was a violent earthquake, that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open and everyone's chains came loose. The jailer woke up, and when he saw the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourself. We're all here." The jailer called for lights, rushed in, and fell trembling before Paul and Silas. He then brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, you and your household." Then they spoke the word of the Lord to him and to all the others in his house. At that hour of the night, the jailer took them, washed their wounds, then immediately he and his household were baptized. The jailer brought them to the house and set a meal before them. He was filled with joy because he came to believe in God and his whole household. When it was daylight, the magistrates sent their officers to the jailer with the order, "Release those men." The jailer told Paul, "The magistrates have ordered that you and Silas be released. Now you can leave. Go in peace." But Paul said to the officer, "They beat us publicly without a trial, even though we were Roman citizens, and threw us into prison. And now, do they want to get rid of us quietly? No, let them come themselves and escort us out." The officers reported this to the magistrates, and when they heard that Paul and Silas were Roman citizens, they were alarmed. They came to appease them and escorted them from the prison, requesting them to leave the city. After Paul and Silas came out of the prison, they went to Lydia's house, where they met with the brothers and sisters and encouraged them. Then they left. Remember, all this confusion of this story starts with what? A female slave who had a divine teacher within her that gave her insight, gave her discernment, power. And they were like, and I don't know why Paul got so annoyed and made the Spirit leave her. Doesn't even say what happened to her. Was she then freed? She wasn't economically prosperous in the same way with her owners anymore. What happened to her? But here's what I really want to call attention to. In the movement from the 1960s and 70s, a song came up going back to a spiritual from the 1800s, the Abolitionist era, called Keep Your Hands on the Plow. Hold on. And I want to leave with that. I know there's one thing I did right, and that's the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. That's more the civil rights movement version. But the other one talks about Paul and Silas and how they went to jail. And there was no one to give them bail. Okay? But they kept their eyes on the prize. They stayed faithful. And true enough, they were set free. Brothers and sisters, we're going to be free. We're going to be free of this madness that's going on right now, at least for a time. But right now, it's the season for this madness, but it's also the season for us to stop this madness with the narratives of truth, from listening to our ancestors, from tuning in to that divine teacher within. Because if you listen, if you tune in, as our ancestors did, as Henry Highland Garnett, as all of the people in the book we write about, so many of those, none of them perfect, but they tuned in. And they stood defiantly for what they knew was true, what they knew was right, and their stories are powerful and are hope. I hope you find them, if you read it, an inspiration to you. But above all, listen and tune in to the divine teacher inside of you, That teacher won't lead you wrong, won't lead you astray. And sometimes if you tune in and you speak that truth, you might annoy people. You will annoy people. You're going to annoy that Tea Party or MAGA brother of yours or brother-in-law of yours. You're going to annoy people. I hope you don't get flogged or go to jail, but some of us might. And we're going to need to raise bail, and we're going to need to raise support for some folks that go to jail. But if we stand firm and stand together, as with the abolitionist movement of the era we look at, during the days of slavery, 1600s through the 1800s, as in the 1900s, the 20th century, with the civil rights and human rights struggles of those times, we will bring forth that cascade of a movement like the Amos talked about. Let justice roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. It's time for us to stand on that and to stand on the truth. Thank you.
Powerful.
Thank you. I hope we didn't say anything divisive.
I'm speechless. Tom, you touched upon this in your presentation, but I do wonder from both of you, and it might be like asking you who your favorite child is, but which of the 20, and you did such a great job of gender and some white, some black, which stories really struck a chord with you? Which ones were, connecting with that inner teacher?
Well, thanks for saying it would be like picking your favorite child. I haven't ever thought to do that among the four I have, so this is going to be a challenge. I feel like I've got different reasons for admiring, appreciating, and feeling inspired by each of them. There are 5 black men, 5 black women, 5 white women, 5 white men. We really were very much conscious of that. The first 10 are black people. We gave them pride of place. I talked about Benjamin Lay. They finally started recognizing him in the world at large. There's a play about him that premiered in Philadelphia last summer. I'd hoped to get there and sell books and celebrate him, but I wasn't able to make it. I hope it comes around again. I often talk about Sally Holly, a white woman near the end of the book who started a school for black children with her partner. We're pretty sure that she had a lesbian partner back in the 1850s, way before there was such a thing allowed. And I admire her for when she first graduated. She was the only Unitarian to go to a Quaker school and still was dancing when the Quakers didn't allow dance. She took a vow when another abolitionist was speaking, when before she even graduated, that she would spend her life fighting on behalf of abolitionist cause at 21 years old. And then I mentioned Sarah Parker Ramon, the young girl who at 16 was already speaking out. Henry Highland Garnett was given credit for being the first person who, first of all, ever spoken as a lawyer in front of the Supreme Court, but also we harken back to him, and there's a picture in his chapter, and you may have seen it, of a black woman sitting on a hood of a car at the first ever Black is Beautiful fashion show. And we give him credit for coming up with the expression black is beautiful in the 1850s. And we have a long quote of his of all the ways in which black people are at least as beautiful as white people, if not considerably more so. And he does it somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it's really a prideful moment that Black Power movement picked up on it and became a phrase of the 60s. I could go on. I mean, each one of them, I feel like a complete immersion in who they were. And there were some that they were clay feet, Dr. Shabazz. None of them were perfect. Jane Swisshelm, feminist, first person to report, a woman to report from the floor of Congress, was horrible on Native American issues. And we decided to keep her in there to show that you could have this incredibly developed consciousness and a very less developed blindness. You want to pick up on any? I didn't mention Mr. Garnett.
Just one for me. I'm going to stay with just one, the one you're mentioning, Henry Highland Garnett. He's kind of a way Tom and I came together because for MLK Day, I was invited as the MLK Day speaker in Northampton in the old St. Edward's Church, Jonathan Edwards Church. And I was up there on the kind of rostrum y'all used to have. They have one like that in Northampton, not rostrum, but podium or whatever. I was way up exalted, so I could thunder, I could really show out. And so I was quoting from Henry Highland Garnett, and when we started talking about this book, I said, we got to put the speech in there. And Tom said, yes, of course. So the speech is in the back, and here's the word from it that binds him to me and to my heart. Brethren, it is as wrong for your lordly oppressors to keep you in slavery as it was for the man-thief to steal our ancestors from the coast of Africa. You should therefore now use the same manner of resistance as would have been just in our ancestors when the bloody footprints of the first remorseless soul thief was placed upon the shores of our fatherland. The humblest peasant is as free in the sight of God as the proudest monarch in Trump Tower, as the proudest monarch that ever swayed a scepter. Liberty is a spirit sent out from God, and like its great author, is no respecter of persons. Liberty is all of ours, and it's a spirit that's in all of us that we're all entitled to.
And I would just add that Frederick Douglass's What to the Slave is the 4th of July is perhaps one of, we think, two of the greatest speeches in the American language, but he issued it to white people. This was the address to the slaves, and he basically ends with asking them to pick up arms, whether it's a shovel or, he's not mincing words, and he's incredibly forceful. And Dr. Shabazz often reads from it, so I'm glad he got to.
I have been moderator several times, and I've never had a batch of questions that were all essentially the same. So these first questions that have come in essentially boil down to this. In a time when there is a huge effort to rewrite the narrative, how do we amplify the truth? People want to know specific, like what they can do. And hand it over to you.
I said before, I think we were here, and the brother y'all had here as a speaker at the Lyceum, Jonah was here, straight out of the whale. He popped up at our talk, and I said, whoa, Jonah. I braced him and everything, and we learned there about how folks have been building a trail, a history, a gallery, exhibits of some of the Black New Hampshire folks that are out there, okay? Whatever grants, power you have for grants and donations to continue to support that work, begin to develop documentaries about some of those people. Begin to put, rename streets or co-name streets for some of those people. I mean, keep that work going, because the more we are written into the story of this state, of this live free or die state, the more we are written into it, then the more we belong here, and we are secure here, and our rights of liberty are secured. But if you keep us hidden, there's this poem about, they make us eat in the kitchen, and I think it's Langston Hughes, and he says, and one day, we'll come out of the kitchen, eating in the back, and we'll be at the table with everybody else. That's the movement. By doing that, remembering the people, bringing them out, bringing their stories out. Humble, maybe, it doesn't matter. Like that quote by Garnett, it's the humblest peasant is entitled to liberty. So bring those stories out, celebrate them, from wherever you have them here in New Hampshire, and I think that's a big start.
Vote. Get everybody you know to vote. Knock on doors. And then also undo the damage of bills like this that's trying to pass in your own legislature that would stifle our work. And then spread the word about books like this that are telling the truth. And any other book that you're encountering that tells the truth, spread that word too. Because the false narrative stays in place until it gets challenged. And that's why we wrote this. We want to keep challenging it every opportunity. And the first big one is in November, because we got to get at least one branch back, because right now it's absolute power in the hands of a madman. So that to me, voting, if there still is anything left of the shreds of our democracy, we got to show up on election day to take something back.
Sadly, we have come to the end of our hour. I want to thank you both for being here today. We hope that you've enjoyed today's presentation of the Monadnock Summer Lyceum. Thank you for your support of our 2026 season. I'd like to remind you all that we have a reception in the parish hall. You can proceed through the door to your left, to my right, and hopefully continue the conversations and dialogue that we've begun here today.
And I would add, we're selling books and we're answering more questions. If you have more questions, we're down there. So keep them flowing.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.